Hi guys, this is Klazart being an audio commentary, and this time I'm commentating on the World Cyber Games Round of 8 Korean qualifiers. This is going to be between Flash and Bisu. We've got Flash, and this is actually going to be on Destination. This is game 1 of a best of 3 series. Flash in teal at the 6 o'clock position, Bisu in blue at the 12 o'clock position. These guys have a little bit of a history between them. Flash, when he first burst onto the scene, cheesed Bisu in a couple of huge games, and that's how he cemented his reputation. A lot of players hated him for doing that because there were most of the fans were Bisu fans around that time. There were so many Bisu fans. I'm sure many of them still are, but you always get those fair weather fans who only back players that are performing well, and Bisu was at the peak of his game at that time and was considered definitely one of the players to beat, and Flash did so in spectacular fashion and got a little bit of a reputation for being a cheese master, although of late he hasn't been cheesing a lot. And instead has been going for those weird 14cc fast expand builds, which sometimes work and sometimes don't work for him. It'll be interesting to see what he does this time around. The first game, as I said, is going to be on Destination. I think overall the map pool for Protoss versus Terran in this matchup is pretty balanced. Destination obviously is considered to be a Protoss favored map. I think they have a 60% overall win rate on it, but it's certainly not hopeless for Terran, provided they can prevent the Protoss player from boxing them in. Korean fans covering their faces. I've never seen a male fan wanting to cover his face before. I wonder if he's worried that his parents will know he's out of school, although he looks a little bit old to be going into school. Bisu now sending his probe out. Looks like Bisu might be looking to fast expand here. Bisu going for a Nexus. Oh my god, Bisu going first. It looks like a straight Nexus, and that is huge. And Flash still hasn't sent an SCV out to scout, so Flash looks like he's playing relatively safe right now. He's just gone for a standard opening with the supply depot and barracks, but Bisu has fast expanded straight away, and you might see obviously straight Nexus versus Zerg. It's much more common than versus Terran. It is a little bit of a risk versus Terran. Bisu, of course, has been a little bit shaky himself recently. Protoss versus Terran, you saw my commentary on his games versus Iris. There were some fantastic StarCraft being played, and more Western fans in the audience. Go Flash, Swedish fans! Go Sweden! I am a huge fan of Swedish gaming, guys. There's just been so much coolness that has come out of Sweden and all of the Scandinavian countries in general. I've got to say, I love the way the countries work. I love the way their political systems are set up and all the rest of it. Flash looks like he might be getting ready to expand as well. He's only got the one SCV on the gas while he puts his factory down, but he still has not sent an SCV out to scout. And I always feel that that's, I don't know if it's a sign of overconfidence or arrogance when players do that, but it's just like, my build is rigid. I know what I'm going to do no matter what. And you know, StarCraft pro gaming is not a one-player game. You've got to take into consideration what the opponent does, and that means you've got to sacrifice that one unit, in my opinion, to scout. Flash probably feels no matter what Bisu does, he's going to be okay, and ordinarily he would be right, except for this particular build that Bisu has gone for. With the 12 Nexus, it changes things around, because that's the kind of build that you've got to scout early. You've got to know that that's what the Protoss player is doing. Flash now has got his... Looks like Flash did send an SCV out, so he has got his SCV finally in Bisu's main. Looks like he's now got the resources ready to try and take his command center as well, and it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to this. We saw Bisu try this versus Iris, where I think Bisu did that on Carthage on that map, and he found himself ahead in terms of his economy, but Iris managed to come back around because Bisu then tried to fast tech to Arbiters. I don't think Bisu will be trying to do that this time around. I don't think he'll be trying to rush tech to Arbiters or anything like that, but I feel Flash scouted relatively late. Now he's got that SCV in Bisu's base, and he's aware of what Bisu's doing. I must have missed that traversing across the map while I was ranting at Flash for not scouting earlier. I still feel he could have scouted perhaps a little bit earlier. Now he's got his machine shop up as well. But when a Protoss player expands like this, I just think it's brilliant. Players, fans hiding their faces. When a Protoss player expands like this, I think it's important for the Terran player. The Terran player has a window of opportunity where they should be able to put pressure on them. But unfortunately for Flash, because he's also kind of gone for a one-fac into CC build, he's not really going to be able to put the kind of pressure that he would have been able to had he scouted Bisu earlier, and so it puts him in a little bit of a disadvantageous position, I feel, in terms of builds, because he doesn't really have a strong military advantage, and yet he's behind on his economy, and Bisu's probably going to have a chance to get a decent defensive force out. Although the one advantage that Flash does have is that Bisu should find it a little bit more difficult to box him in and to lock him into kind of his side of those bridges just outside of his natural expo. It looks like Bisu is upgrading to Grunage. He's got 2 gateways up. He's got that. Has had that expansion up and running for a while now without any harass. Flash now has got his command center built up, and he's going to float it over. He's got 2 siege tanks out as well. and he should be able to get this in position comfortably enough. So it looks like we're setting up for a macro game here. We all know that Flash likes to macro. And talking about the map pool, I feel that even though Destination is kind of hugely imbalanced in favor of Protoss, we've then got Return of the King on game 2, where that's considered to be, I feel, a Terran favored map. Protoss win rate is only 37% versus Terran on that, although far fewer games have been played, so the margin isn't quite as clear, but I think 18 to 11 is still quite telling. And then finally, the final matchup is being played on Heartbreak Ridge, which is a little bit closer, and I feel is probably fairly evenly balanced in my opinion between the two players. Let me just check the stats on that really quickly while nothing serious is going on here. But yeah, Heartbreak Ridge is fairly evenly balanced, 18-15 on Heartbreak Ridge, as Flash secures his natural expo. So I hope this will be a closely fought series. I hope this will be a competitive series. Both players will want to get into the next round. This is a round of 8, so the round of 4 is, once you get into the round of 4, you have a really good chance, because 3 players and Bisu now putting that Citadel down. It'll be interesting to see if we see him go, if we see him rush to Templar, if we see him rush to Arbiters again, the way we saw him do so versus Iris. Flash obviously has those comsats up as well, so, and Bisu meanwhile has got a robotics facility, so we might, okay, he's putting the observatory down, so I don't think we're going to be seeing DT. Okay, he's putting the Templar archives down, and he's putting the Stargate down. So yeah, Bisu looks like he's going to try and get those Arbiters out again, which again, if Flash was here in if this was Iris playing right now and he scouted this, I remember what Iris did was he put another expansion down at this point and caught up in terms of economy, and was then able to weather and obviously prepared by putting mass turrets up and spider mines, positioning them tactically, and was able to weather Bisu's Arbiter storms and then take him down, grind him down. And this would be the ideal moment for Flash to put another expansion down to take the economic to equal the economic lead that that Bisu had got initially, although of course both players on 2 bases right now. But Bisu, remember, with that 12 Nexus, looks like Bisu's getting ready to take the expansion at the 1 o'clock position. But it'll be interesting to see how Flash responds to this. Flash just seems to be content to macro up as well, and unfortunately for Flash, his style is sort of really suits what Bisu's trying to do here, because Flash isn't really being aggressive, he's just turtling, and he does tend to do that a lot recently, whereas I think if he'd perhaps gone for one of his famous cheese builds, he would have undone Bisu, who'd gone for a straight 12 Nexus without any sort of scout. Now that Observer coming in for Bisu, and he's going to see what Flash is up. Flash's got a couple of siege tanks out, he's now finally sending that couple of vultures out just to scout around the map. He's got a starport out as well, critically, and that could prove very useful to him if Bisu goes straight Arbiters. He could, if he gets the control tower down, get some early science vessels, and I wonder if Flash has actually got maybe perhaps a scout off on Bisu. Bisu looks like he is taking that expansion at the, I thought he was going to initially go for the 1 o'clock expansion, but it looks like he's actually gone for the 2 o'clock expansion. And yeah, control tower going down for Flash, so perhaps he's seen, and science facility as well, so Flash knows what's coming. I think he's seen that Bisu's gone for Arbiters. He must have gotten a comsat off, and so he's gonna get the science vessels out. He's gonna be able to EMP, and he realizes that this is his moment to expand and take some more territory, and he's exactly doing that. He's expanding, so this is exactly what Iris did. Flash is now expanding, looking to secure that 4 o'clock expo while he realizes that Bisu doesn't have a lot of resources, and set up a sort of a contained break. Bisu coming around with the 4 Dragoons. He wants to try and delay Flash as much as possible, but those 4 Dragoons are not going to be able to get there in time. Flash has got that area covered with his siege tanks and vultures as well, and Bisu obviously doesn't want to lose those Dragoons this early on. And yeah, Arbiter Tribunal up for Bisu, and he's producing that first Arbiter already. I mean, I don't really like these Protoss tech switches personally. I don't like these kind of switches where you rush to Arbiters or rush to Carriers. I'm not a huge fan of these strategies. I just feel that when you're ahead in the game, it kind of gives your opponent a chance to come back, or alternatively, it gives an opponent a chance to put pressure on you. It gives them windows. It gives them windows of opportunities, and it is a little bit of a risky strategy, because of course if you can pull it off, then you're going to be ahead. You're going to win the game based on it. But it can be a throw of the dice sometimes, and you give, in my opinion, too much control and power to your opponent to be able to dictate the game. And Bisu has given Flash that opportunity. Flash seems to be taking it. He's expanded again, and he's on equal number of bases with Bisu. He's going to be 3 bases to Bisu's 3 bases, and that's not where as a Protoss player you want to be. Meanwhile, he's got a science facility up. He's got starport with control tower down. He's got the 2 armories down. He's going to have the Goliaths up. He's setting up an excellent defense. He's putting blocking buildings all over his map. I'm sure he's taken some lessons from Iris's famous win against Bisu in the MSL round of 8. And as I was saying, this, and Bisu looks like he is expanding yet again. again, this time at the 10 o'clock position. I'm not sure if Flash has scouted this, and he's just sending some Dragoons over just to make sure he protects that expansion. And he's got observers all over the map, well-positioned observers. But Flash now with that Sideswipe Flood, that initial EMP or that initial Arbiter move is going to be critical, because if Bisu doesn't do something initially, I feel that Flash could potentially run away with this game. Bisu's now got those Arbiters up, he's macroing up, he's getting his buildings up. This is a little bit like a 10-minute, 15-minute no-rush game, guys. Neither player has made any attacking moves whatsoever against each other. This is like a TVB 10-minute no-rush or 15-minute no-rush. We might be another couple of minutes in there before either player really decides to try and do something. Flash now moving forward with the Vultures, just planting some Spider Mines down south of Bisu's wrap at the 2 o'clock base, and he's just going to plant those Spider Mines and move away. Bisu will probably just bring an observer around to clear that out. Bisu doesn't want to allow Flash to roam freely in the middle of the map, because then those Vulture raids can be absolutely devastating. Now Bisu moving out with that Arbiter. It'll be interesting to see whether he's got a recall or whether he's got stasis. He's not going to have obviously enough energy to have both ready right now, so it'll be interesting to see what he goes for. It looks like he might actually have the stasis, because he's bringing those Dragoons around from the south along with the Arbiter, although that Arbiter is circling around the south corner of the map, so it looks like we might actually be potentially seeing a recall here from that Arbiter from Bisu, because he's not brought